Welcome to the Devoted Way podcast, all about magic and miracles with me, Sora Schilling. It's time to hone in on your intuition, become artful, respectful, and nuanced with your relationship with energy, and live life based on your design. Your unique blueprint encoded with stardust from the ethereal realm and blood from those that have come before you. You know what to do and how to be, so trust in yourself. Hey, this is Sora. All right, so check it out. Yesterday, I held the first of 3 days of a free challenge called the Archetype Quiz Challenge. And I had so much fun hosting that experience yesterday that I thought I'd create a little podcast out of it so that for those of you who are not part of the challenge or who desire to come back and listen, that this is already here for you. So day one was all about honoring archetypes and your own personal archetypes as a way to bring forth your superpowers. And there was a wonderful energy tool that I used to drop you in to gain access from your internal space, those archetypal energies. I then went in to share a little bit more around why you honoring your own incredible superpowers and understanding your archetypal energies and being the full embodiment and expression of that actually very easily calls in your dreamy potential clients. And then lastly, I gave you a couple of things that you can do with this. And so check out the class, and I can't wait to hear from you around what you thought of it. All right, speak to you soon. All right, Divine Ones, welcome. Welcome to your Archetype Quiz Challenge. Today is day one. It is the 20th of June, and I am so excited to start our day one, which is all about your archetypal superpowers. So before we begin, I'd love to always take a moment to center ourselves. And so if you wouldn't mind lowering your gaze or closing your eyes. As you do so, taking a breath, inhaling, and then exhaling, calling yourself to yourself, noticing whatever it is that you had done prior to this moment in time, seeing what you can release and offer up to the Great Mother, and then bringing all of your awareness into you, opening, expanding your mind and your heart and your soul. As we drop in, and today we get to ignite our superpowers that lie deep within us in a way that sparks incredible, illuminating ways of us calling in our dreamy clients. As you feel the soles of your feet firmly grounded on the floor, may you give great thanks to the earth, to the wisdom keepers. I call myself to myself on this unceded territory of the Catawba and the Sugary here in North Carolina. And I honor you and the sacred lands and the stewards of those lands of which you are residing as well. And so together, may we joyously enter our space. May we have some fun. Let's get curious around archetypal energies. And with that, we inhale together, exhale together. Gently coming back to here and now as you open your eyes. And if you'd like, you can go ahead now and in the chat, place your name, your greetings, where you're checking in from, and go ahead and start making those conversations and connections. Now, since this is a challenge, right? So for those of you who are brand new to my awareness, I have these different sides of myself. Right. So there is that side of me that loves to ground in, really ignite the sacred. It is part of my priestess ways and myself as a minister of walking prayer. And so that is something that I always do. I will always open a space and close a space. Now, at the same time, there's another side of me. And the other side of me is very playful and curious, and I love to laugh. And I have a very youthful kind of essence to me, right? And so not only do I necessarily look young, which thankfully for my, my Korean genes, but I also have this way of sometimes acting with this sense of youthfulness. And so even at the age of 45, many folks will be like, wait a second, what? How old are you? right? And so there is the space of I can get giddy and start giggling and laughing. So there's that side of me too, which is what ignited this challenge for the next 3 days. Now, there's another side of me as well that especially, well, part of it is just my essence, and a part of it is because of where I grew up. And so there's that part of me that is very fierce and is loving, but can be very precise and very strong, right? And that part of that is because I'm a New Yorker. So, hands down, I'm a New Yorker. I've got a little bit of that sass in me, but also it's because I have this feeling of deep desire to ensure that everyone is supported. And if there's anyone in need or anyone who needs a little extra support, that I'm going to be right there besides them, right? And so there's that aspect of me as well. And then the last aspect of me that I'd love to just point out is there's that teacher side of me. Like, I absolutely love coming in and sharing some thoughts and feelings. And I'm a big believer for my own life that it's all about trial and error. Like, I was supposed to do things the hard way to help support people in doing things the easy way. And so, what you're noticing here, even just the way that I'm explaining myself, is that there's different types of archetypal energies within me that I represent and I can acknowledge that I can share with all of you so that you can begin to notice how the different aspects and layers of those gifts in my archetypal energies show up today and during our time together, right? And so, one of the things I love about speaking to archetypal energies is that it's such a beautiful way to begin to get to know one another. Not that the archetypes are going to be tried and true you and that's it. That's not true at all, because you're multidimensional, not just only in your humanness, but also in your cosmicness and the way that you serve the world. But because archetype energies stem from and was created by Jung, and he created 12 archetypal energies based on this idea of there is a collective consciousness, that we have collective stories and narratives that can help bring us together and understand each other through archetypal stories and narratives to help us not only feel like we have separate individual experiences, but at the heart of the matter, that there's very similar areas of growth and challenges and places for us to connect with. And so that's what I love as a starting point for us today. Okay. So let me tell you a little story, shall I? Okay. So when I was starting my journey as a life coach back so far ago that it feels like it was ages and ages ago, I was in my 30s, right? I'm 45. So it's over 10 years ago. I had been a teacher for 4 years, close to 5 years before that, right? I had gone and got my master's for 2 years in teaching. Prior to that, I was actually in fashion. And I was working in fashion for a really long time. And prior to that, during my college days, you name it, I've done every single internship possible in New York. I was made to work. Like, I rarely went to classes. It was all about like, what other internship or a thing could I do out in the city? And I loved like getting dressed, tapping into like what it was that I was doing, and then like going in and being the full embodiment of what I believed would be the best essence to tackle whatever that job was. And then I'd come back and be a student again. And student was like, okay. But being out there in the world was the thing that I loved, right? And so what I began to realize during my time of spiritual reckoning is what I would call it, not spiritual awakening. I would call it a spiritual reckoning, because at that moment in time, I had been in the fashion world and I realized that I was living a life that was completely false in regards to I had no idea who I was and what I wanted. Being an immigrant, person of color who basically was told every single day that I was here on this earth to do better than my mother and father, who worked their butts off every single day to ensure I was going to have a better life. I basically thought that's what I needed to do. And so when I realized I have no idea who I was, my spiritual reckoning allowed me to say, okay, how am I going to figure this out for myself? And the goddesses came into my life. And it was through the archetypes of the goddesses that I finally started to resonate. And I love origin stories. I love understanding through the cultural lens different stories that bring in those archetypal energies since I was very young. But when I acknowledge the goddesses, especially through the lens of me starting to understand what are the aspects of archetypal energies that was programmed into me, right? Like the good oldest daughter of a Korean immigrant household, right? Like, what did I choose to be a representation of versus what were the natural, organic ways that suited me that I knew I was? And then lastly, what were the areas in me that either scared the shit out of me, where I thought there's no way I could be that, and wondered, wait a second, why couldn't I be that? Right. And then other areas where I was just lowercase t triggered as F, being like, I don't like that. And then getting curious around why is it that I don't like those aspects of archetypal energies, right? And so I went on this inquiry for years, getting to know goddesses and their archetypal energies to help me start understanding myself. And so from that, what I recognized is that even in my early days in college, when I was strutting in different outfits to different jobs and internships, I was basically shape shifting into these different spaces. Why? Not because I was trying to pretend, but instead it was my way in my, 18, 19, 20-year-old self to start trying on who I wanted to be and who I knew was innately in me, right? And so some may call that really embodying your alter ego, right? Like Beyonce speaks about this often in her early days of being Queen Bee and how she like really enjoyed like being an archetypal energy to help support her on stage, and then she didn't need it anymore. Same idea when it comes to with myself in the moments in time where I couldn't figure out myself. The archetypal energies help me to be a full embodied expression to try it on to see what parts of it was really true or not. And so now I share all of this because you must be like, well, Sora, why are you sharing this right now? And the reason being is that based on this, today we're going to go through an experience to help you bring in an embodiment of some archetypal energies to help support you in considering not only your archetypal energies, but what are the archetypes that might desire to be co created even this week to help serve your community, right? That's why you're here. So, firstly, in the chat, if you already love archetypes and you feel like you've worked with them often, go ahead and put in the chat. I would love to know. And the reason that we are here today is I'm going to put a little spin on what you may already know in regards to your connection with archetypes and start in the next 3 days, show you how those archetypal energies that you learned can now shift and grow into archetypes that are very much connected to you and the essence of your community to help you in ways that I have to say has profoundly changed my space holding abilities. Okay. So, for example, we have a divine person here who does work with archetypes in their coaching, which is awesome. Yes, great. We have another who have some ideas and thoughts around archetypes. Yep. Another who said, not really a lot of experience with archetypes, just doing some reading around it now. Great, great. There's a lot of great resources when it comes to archetypes. Amazing. Now, for each and every one of you, and I have someone here who said, I use archetypes in hand analysis and love archetypes in general. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so whether you already have some extensive knowledge around archetypes or you don't, go ahead and put in the chat if you love taking archetype quizzes, right? So if you loved those BuzzFeed quizzes, like the one that I had put into our private pop-up Facebook group, do you love taking quizzes? Do you love just even learning a little bit more about yourself, right? I see oh yeah, love it, right? Absolutely. Love it with like capital case. Love it with exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Love taking those quizzes. Love quizzes. Absolutely. Yeah. So imagine if you love taking quizzes this much, how much your community members must love taking quizzes, right? And so, therefore, there is some prime opportunity here, folks, for you to create a quiz to help you engage with your community that you already have, as well as engage with all of these folks that are in the ether, ready to be in your community that may not know much about you or haven't had an access point that intrigued them enough to put in their name and start engaging with you. Right. And so that's what I love about archetypes and archetype quizzes. Okay, so like I said, the power of archetypes, number one, based on Carl Jung's work and framework, he began to really look at symbols and understanding the collective unconsciousness and what can we understand and start having deep empathy and compassion around in the sense of our humanity. And from that, we have used a lot of those archetypes in many ways, right? And so you can also look up all the archetypes, but they're ones that you know, like trickster and teacher. And so these are all ones that we have used and heard of often, and then have been represented in different ways or through also other personas or through other characters or through other energies like the goddesses. Now, the role of archetypes inside of our healing spaces, for those of you that are coaches and are healers, or you serve coaches and healers, right? So you might be a graphic designer who works with them, or a copywriter that works with healers and coaches. And so what you notice inside of our world of spiritual development is that the one thing that we are all here dedicated to do and slightly obsessed about is understanding ourselves. Right? The reason we do our work is because we want to learn more and more about ourselves. And because we do so, we're so inspired that we desire deeply to help others also understand themselves. Right? You know that you don't want to tell people who they are because that's their natural journey. That is their own journey of self-discovery. It's why we are here on earth. We don't remember the fullness of us, and we will have trials and challenges and spaces of stretch and discomfort. And that's what brings forth a deeper understanding of the truest nature of who we are. And so we love doing it for ourselves. So naturally, we want to help support other people in doing so as well. And the archetypes is a really lovely way of engaging with your own personal healing, but also serve your clients, because often it is hard in the depths of us looking at our internal landscape to put light on the shadows of areas that we do not see. And so when we can use story and use the energy of archetypes as mirrors in front of us, it is so much easier to comprehend than trying to go inward and say, what's happening here? And so it also creates a sacred space between you, your client, and the archetype. Because to me, archetypes are not just metaphors or a mental state of concept to understand. To me, archetypes are what I keep sharing, which are archetypal energies. They are living, breathing frequencies and energies that are part of the collective that in the unseen world is alive and here to touch us and provide us with such deep wisdom, and miracles move through them. Right. So I do believe them to be living. So in this space, you're going to also realize I speak things that are very vastly connected that I can help with, including muggles out there in the world. But I believe that we are also magical. And so I speak the language of magic the way that all of you do, because you're here with me. So hence, I'm obviously going to assume that you speak the language of magic as well. Okay. So because of that, and we now know that there's a power in the tool of archetypes and using archetypes specifically through the lens of a quiz, let me share a little bit about how this has been supportive for myself. Now, for many of you who have gone through challenges and webinars and like video 3-part series and all that stuff, like you know the deal with this. And so you obviously would assume that at this point, I'm going to share numbers and pat myself on the back and tell you why I'm an expert and why you should listen to me. And I'm not going to do that. Right? And so you can read that on the page and all of that. And at some point, I'll share a little bit for those of you that are investigators and likes to have all the information. But for now, what I'd like to share is more this, because it's what we're going to be doing today. Okay. Me dropping into, even in the past 6 months, right? Starting in Peru, when I took several folks to Peru for a 10-day retreat and with ceremony and medicine. One of the things that dropped in during that time was this vision and this complete understanding of who I am in the near future. And because I got this very visceral, deep understanding of who I was in the near future, my invitation was to start noticing if I can bring my near future into my present self and look through the eyes and the lens of that fully embodied next evolution of who I was. Not perfect, just 6 months evolution of me, right? Not 20 years from now evolution of me, but the 6-month evolution of me, and start noticing if I can make choices and feel and have different perspectives based on that future version of me versus now. And the way I played with that was through the lens of the archetypal energies that brought forth a slightly different me, right? And so I started to put it on, just like an alter ego or a superhero would. You have superhero who is, out there in the world pretending to be an everyday human, right? Like Clark Kent and like just being around the world, and then actual Superman. And so same thing for me. I could be the Sora who is the now, but then I could put myself in a different energy space and be the full expression of my near future self now. And I did that over and over again. And part of the way that I did that was by wearing certain things. And so for the next number of days, you'll notice that there are, 3 things that I wear, right? And they switch a little bit, but it helped me bring an anchor in that version of me that I truly desire to really honor right now and be a yes to the learnings now. And by doing so, everything has changed, meaning I've had retreats sold out. I've had another retreat 75% full out. I have a better understanding of what Devoted Energy Coaching School will be when it opens its doors for next year's enrollment. I understand how to hold space for my students right now that is so epic that people inside of Leading Luminous Circles and retreats are like dying with incredible inspiration. I feel alive. Right? Okay, so before I continue, because we already have people trying to guess, go ahead and guess. What do you think? So there's one thing that will swap here and there, right? So like I won't wear 2 of the same things. And then another thing you'll notice that I wear all the time. So what are the things? So go ahead and put that in the chat. I love it. I won't tell you yet so that people can go ahead and continue placing what they think it is. All right. And so for all of you, we're going to play today. So today is going to be about superpower archetypal energies for you. Tomorrow, it's going to be about bringing forth the archetypal energies that truly are the greatness and the potent medicine that you are that will support your clients. And then the third day is going to be about how to bring all of that together to ignite a very deep connection with your community members, and also some steps to consider when creating a quiz. So I've got you. We've got 3 days together. So there's just different components. So stay with me. Okay. Cool. All right. You're all doing really well. It's pretty obvious, huh? Your guesses are all correct. Your guesses are all correct, but I'll share a little bit more later. Okay, so with that being said, today's focus is going to be about superpower archetypal energies. I'm stating it a couple times here, right? Superpower archetypal energies. And the reason being is not only for you to really understand yourself, because you do the work you do. So you're very aware of who you are, but it's about verbalizing it through the lens of archetype energies. Why? So that you call forth your most dreamiest, aligned potential clients. That's the connection that we're making today. Okay. So the superpower archetypal energies, not just so you get to know yourself better, which is super fun, and you get to use other words and see through other characters and personas. But more importantly, I'm going to make the connection that when you do this, that you will be so much more open to calling forth your irresistible clients, that not only because they love you, but really, most importantly, you love them so much. Like you just, oh my gosh. I just think about my clients and my students, and the amount of love I have for all of them is so big that it makes me think of there's a story in Korean culture around Mago. Mago is the primordial mother, the first creator. And she births these seven planets, one of them being Earth, right? And so to me, I have so much love that's stored in that all I want to do is explode worlds for all of my students and clients. Like that's the amount of love and respect I have for every single person who goes through the different offerings that I have. I love them. Kind of so much so also that I just want to eat them, meaning like just want to like, so good. Okay. So that feeling. How often have you had clients and you've had this feeling of, right? Like the feeling of cool. Or you come onto a call and before you do, you have to kind of brace yourself in wondering where you're going to go with this call and being like, I really do honor this client. I honor this client. And then you show up for the experience, right? Versus every single time being ready to be with your clients in person, on screen via Zoom, and having so much enthusiasm, no matter what kind of day you had, no matter what kind of life experience you are currently having, because we are people and humans and have other things going on in life, that as soon as you're ready, you're on. And it's because you love and respect your potential clients and your clients so much, right? Okay. So let's play with this, shall we? Go ahead and entertain me by lowering your gaze. And if you feel grounded, rooted, and sacred in your environment, please go ahead and close your eyes. And in doing so, you can give yourself a little shake, get yourself really landed. Feel the soles of your feet on the floor, or feel your hips slightly even more sinking luxuriously in your seat. And take a breath, a slow, deep breath. Inhaling, holding at the top for a moment to expand your awareness. And then gently exhale out, either through your mouth or through your nose. You get to do you. One more time. Inhale deeply, filling your internal well. Hold at the top, feeling that strength as you widen your energetic container. And then luxuriously, in your sovereign, reverent way, exhale that delicious breath, knowing that your breath is a gift to this earth. As you come to this natural breath now, bring your awareness into your heart space. Drop further into your heart as if it was a portal. going deep on all the way down and in. And as you do, popping out into the energetic field. Here you are floating. You feel deeply held in the cosmic space and waters, the ethereal realm. Here, in the middle of that space, is an altar. You do not need to visualize it. Simply sense that there are sacred items in an area that anchors in a connection between you and the field. Now, the blessing you will place in is you entering in with your name, introducing yourself into this energetic field. And then calling in the archetypal energies that will support you in honoring the fullest expression of who you are 6 months from now. Now, these archetypal energies may come simply as a frequency where you sense and feel, or they may come through in other ways. Again, let go of needing to track or make sense and allow yourself to simply pause and be. And as you do that, allow those archetypal energies to weave together into the vision of you 6 months from now. You may sense it or simply know it or see it. But in front of you, in the energetic field, is you 6 months from now. And here you shall go ahead and notice what is the source of magic of this divine being that is you 6 months from now. Notice how you stand, what kind of presence you have. What strengths have you begin to really harness and bring forth? What choices in the world would you say no to? And what choices would you say an orgasmic, full-bodied yes to? This fullest expression of you 6 months from now, you feel the different archetypal energies within this one fullness of you. Go ahead and give great gratitude. And then bring that archetype or that 6-month version of you into yourself so that you are now looking through the eyes of your fullest expression of yourself 6 months from now. And just kind of wiggle into that, feel into it. And notice how your future self calls upon you with this inner strength, a little shift and change within your internal landscape. And lastly, notice if there is anything that you may adorn yourself to be an anchor that reminds you of this. Bring deep gratitude one more time for this sacred experience. And then bring your awareness into your heart space. Begin to take some slow, deep breaths, possibly moving your hands, your fingers, your toes, your legs. And gently, when you're ready, on that last exhale, open your eyes with a soft gaze and gently bring your awareness back to the screen. Okay. As you slowly start coming back, my invitation is in the chat. Go ahead and place if there was any experience that came through, anything that you started to see happen within your own understanding of those archetypal energies. And was there a call for you to step in, step up and out in a way that's slightly different than how you're currently feeling? Right. So anything you want to share in the chat around that, go ahead. So for me, when it comes to looking at the choices I make each day, right, as a entrepreneur, there's many choices we have to make, is there not? Including, are we going to choose to tackle some of the things on our to-do list, or are we going to binge watch Ted Lasso because you have not done so in the years that it was in season, and now you are catching up and you just kind of go into it? That is me speaking about me. Right? Like, so there are choices that we can make every single day. There is a choice that we can go outside and go for a walk, or there's a choice that we can say we have no time to do so because we have 20 things that we should get done, quote, should get done. And so for me, when I now understand this archetypal feeling of myself in my fullest expression 6 months from now, instead of in my present moment, whether I'm tired or anxious or fully energized or overly caffeinated, whatever it is, instead of making a choice from any of those areas, to make a choice from that reverent self in me means that I perceive the world in a slightly different way. My thought pattern is actually different. The way that I sit up is vastly different. My presence feels more grounded. And then actively, the choice I can make through the lens of that self feels really sovereign. I feel pretty darn effing good, I've got to say, no matter what's happening. Okay. And so for each of you, you might notice that there's something that's happened. So maybe there's a little extra in regards to your confidence and fearlessness of being out there in the world and visible. Or maybe there's a little extra in your ability to be creating a little more boundaries and letting go of some of the angst and feeling like the choices you make are really easeful, right? It's usually just a little extra in the softening and in the widening and the abilities that you have, versus in our present moment, we sometimes feel a little crunched. We feel like we're like in a small little box and we've outgrown it and we're not quite sure how to expand out of it. Right? Great. And so the next question for each of you, love it. I love what you said here. So embodying confidence, leading with confidence, and energetically, I can feel that, right? Like there's a leading with that frequency of confidence that will have a particular flavor for you that's vastly different than anyone else. So now confidence is not just this generic word that's used in self-development. Build your confidence, have your confidence, enjoy your, instead there's like a feeling behind it. There might be a visual, a sensation that no one can take away from you, or just kind of code it as part of a generic response. And so that's wonderful. Or I could see what I had seen in meditation last time, that I've becoming my 6 months from now already. Beautiful. So she gave you that power and the space of creation power that you can continue to source your inspiration from. Amazing. I saw fire and a lion and felt a sense of accomplishment. So wonderful. So often we're like moving, 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 and we forget what is that ultimate feeling. Instead, we think about the ultimate outcome. And so I love the fact that you felt accomplished, because that's the feeling of success and the completion of something into something else. The feeling of accomplishment, no matter what happens with it. Right? And you felt her movement, her power, her ability to be fearless. Beautiful, because you are all of those things right this very moment. That was beautiful. I saw a couple of goddesses come in, and I was embodying them 6 months from now. And I was in a beautiful goddess dress. I was standing regal and very confident. Yes, I have shivers. I literally, legitimately have shivers right now. Right. So honoring that, I can feel that sense of just sovereign space of filling you up and filling other spaces up with the greatness that you are. Amazing. Strong, confident, compassionate, playful, cheeky, with a sense of knowing, color green and feathers and a stick. Absolutely. Right. And so for others, if they heard that, they may just hear like certain words. But what I am sensing is I can feel the fullness of that there's layers to it. Right? I can feel the nuance of cheeky with playful, along with compassionate and strong. I could feel the understanding of confidence coming through with the sense of green, and that the feathers and the stick is like a very tangible way of possibly bringing that forward as a reminder. So beautiful. Okay. So for each of you also, my curiosity, and now if you did it, I'm going to tell you otherwise too. So if in the space, in the energetic field, when we went in, if there was something to adorn yourself with that came through, go ahead and place it in the chat. Okay. Now, when I go through this exercise, so I do this a lot in the beginning of any sort of container, including something like right now, I'm leading people through a particular program called Leading Luminous Circles and Retreats. And those luminaries are moving through this active space with them. And so I say to folks that whatever comes through, it's not about needing to purchase something. Right? It's not about whether or not you have the funds to now go and get this thing. It's more about feeling into it and notice, number one, is there something like that you already have? And number two, can you simply call it in? Meaning, even if you have the resources, it's not about now going on and like searching for it, but rather live life as that full expression and guarantee auspiciously and synchronistically that vision of the thing is going to come into your reality, including someone might gift it to you, or you might go to the farmer's market and have this local designer and there's something there that is so for you, right? The space of awe and wonder and the playfulness of allowing your connection of the conversations that were happening with your full embodied future self in the liminal space, which is also known as the acausal realm or the 5D realm. You can bring that awareness into your reality now, but you don't bring it in forcefully. You bring it in by walking in life with wonder and awe. Okay. So I see here that there was enchanted blue. I see that there is a beautiful goddess waist beads that replaces the one that I already wear, with all types of crystals and many rose quartz, a bracelet made out of woven material, and all the colors I saw in the archetypal energies. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness, so good. Okay, so then back to when I shared that there are certain things I wear, right? So one of the things that I've been wearing that I used to wear a lot years ago are my earrings, right? So feathers are very sacred to me. And there's a whole different story. I won't go there as to why, but I am part of the winged family, right? The dragons and all of the winged creatures. Even my name, Sora, in the US is actually a North American bird, right? So like there is all sorts of deep connections I have with the winged ones. And so it brings a particular sense in me that is very intimate as to why it is that I wear it. And then the other is, yes, my necklace. So I swap between this one and another one, and that too. Right. So those two things are the adornments that brings this activation within me and saying, I'm going to make choices from a different space, because the choices that I used to make over and over again clearly weren't always working itself out, because I was still having certain areas of suffering. And so based on that, what if maybe I chose differently by feeling into and being that version of myself in the future, instead of being like, it's not happening until later. I'm just going to bring that forward, be that now, and make choices from that space. Think in that way, feel in that way, and see what happens. So these are what provides that space for me as an anchoring and as a reminder. So I invite you to play with that for yourself, okay? For the next even couple of days. And let's see, every day when you come in, and you can take a photo, put it in the Facebook group, let us see it, let us ooh and ah, or go take us on a little stroll to your like local jewelry store and let's show us all the goodies and see, you know, what you're going to pick, whatever, vintage store, it does not matter, you know, or make it yourself, right? So make some jewelry, put it on, whatever it is. But go ahead and show us. I would love that to help anchor in the energy. Cool. All right. So why did you do all that experience? Number one, it was amazing because it brings forth you and a fuller expression of you. Number two, I work in the world of energy. I'm an energy coach and I teach folks how to be energy coaches. So naturally, I'm going to have you enter into the acausal realm or the liminal space. But also, you're here because you want to know how this equates to basically building out a quiz, and then having that help support in creating and calling in dreamy clients, correct? Okay. So here's the thing. There are many amazing, wonderful people and free experiences and free like PDFs and books and all sorts of different things that talk about how to build out a quiz, right? There are, including if you go to tryinteract.com, which is a platform to create your quiz. They have a whole slew of resources, and they even tell you step by step how to do it. I myself took a course, an online course. I paid over $2,000 to then learn how to build out a course, right? So there's many different places you can go do that. Here's what I learned. What I learned was, I don't want to know just how to build out a quiz. What ended up happening in my month-long exploration of creating my quiz was I started to co-create with the energy of all of the clients I had and all the clients that were going to eventually come to me. Not original, my flavor of archetypal energies that were going to help me honor my potential clients and my current clients in a way that I could not have ever done before. It was a sacred study of my community members more than anything. And I feel as if that's why my quiz has been so helpful, but also so nourishing for me, right? So what I mean by this is that you can go off and look at all the different archetypes out there and say, all right, I'm going to build out a quiz with 4 archetypes, and they're going to be the nurturer or mother, right? They're going to be the maiden. They're going to be the crone, or they're going to be the summer, spring, winter, fall, right? You can do all the things and make it your own, and yet it's still going to slightly feel a little generic, no? Because it's part of what's out there already. You may take the goddesses, but then the goddesses are going to be someone in that same realm, right? So you may do something like Athena or Isis and the queen and the regalness of Isis, right? The royal colors of it. You might take someone like Kuan Yin and do like passion and compassion and the sense of connection, and make it like the blues and the soft pastels, even though that's not only her aspect of Kuan Yin, but and so you can do it that way again, and it still be beautiful. But what if you had archetypal energies that were really connected to yourself. Meaning, inside of devoted, I have 4 archetypes, right? Now, when I created this, I was like, okay, I'm creating a quiz, but Soar doesn't do anything half-assed ever. So on this full journey of figuring out and picturing all of my clients, I started to write some of them out. I started to go through my list and like all my spreadsheets of all my clients. And I started to put them in these different categories to understand them better. And I started to also do that for myself. Who am I in this kind of way, and this kind of way, and this kind of way? And by doing so came compassionate healer, enchanting weaver, prolific alchemist, and sovereign warrior. Okay. Now, alchemist, healer, these are all archetypal energies for sure. That is, again, part of the world and the world we live in. But my flavor of compassionate healer and what I know as the anchoring of the core wound and how this person shows up in the full expression, or how they are resistant inside of coaching and when they are not, is very clear to me. You ask me any question about any of these archetypes and I can tell you, including how they'll show up if they're resistant, how they'll show up if they're angry, how they'll show up if they want to try to bypass like the deep experience they're about to have. I can tell you how I use my voice and change it, or even what kind of questions I ask based on the different archetypal energies. I know my clients and I know them through the archetypal energies. And I know that I will be very compassionate with how a sovereign warrior shows up, and sometimes really prickly, and how I will not be scared of that. I will also know how to show up for an enchanting weaver, right? Or a compassionate healer in their spin of their own space of deeply desiring to be rescued. And I am not going to spin in that cycle with them. I am stopping that cycle, putting it a pause, and bringing them out. But I do it vastly different than the way I would hold a space for a prolific alchemist. Now, for each of you, I share this because every single one of you has your own archetypal energies that are desiring to come through up and out. And you may have already started to meet them inside of energy space. And so your mind might want to be like, okay, I want to create the cool words like Sora, the enchanting weaver, and prolific alchemist. And again, the reason why I do the things I do my way is F the mind and trying to go word hippo and write synonyms and figure out what is the coolest title for each of the archetypes that people are going to sign up for. No, because it's going to land flat. But instead, if we honor the internal journey and we begin to ask the energy, right? Like the energy is there. If we ask the energy, can you show me the different aspects of yourself? Is there a name or a word that helps bring forth to life who you are? May we work together to create and co-create so that we can bring it to our community and to our potential new clients. I am here for it. Let us go on a journey. And so that's what I did. Now I know it so well that I can take people on this journey from beginning to end in figuring out their archetypes, all the way to creating their actual quiz and their sales sequence and build out their funnel in 5 days. And that's it. Why? Because we don't overthink it. We do a lot in energy space. We honor each other in community by together working together so we're not siloed. We let go of any idea that someone's going to steal archetypes because they're universal. They were specifically created to embody the collective unconscious. So you cannot steal an archetype, but they are yours in regards to how they are created and birthed to life. And so together and community, we get to do that. Okay. All right. So was today fun? I really want to honor time and space. Can you see why, lastly, the reason why these archetypal energies, as you're like getting to know them, why clients will come your way is because this, me understanding myself to the fullness of my medicine and my gifts and my potency means that when I be that full embodiment of me, right? Like that 6-month future self of me, there's no way that there aren't people who are noticing me. I don't need to try. I don't need to pretend. I don't need to feel like I have to overwork. If I am the fullness of me, I'm going to show up in that way. Just like right now, today, right? You notice that there were different components of me, and you might even be able to kind of slide it in. You can slide in when I'm sassy. That's my sovereign warrior. You can slide in my enchanting weaver when I go into that space of energy and I'm speaking a little bit more poetically. You can feel my prolific alchemist when I'm teaching something and breaking something down. And you can feel my compassionate healer when I'm like, yes to you, and I'm like encouraging you and I'm loving you up, right? You can feel every single aspect of me. I'm not hiding any aspect of me, nor am I trying. And so by doing so, your visibility is natural. And to me, I had to learn that very deeply because for those of you that know human design, I'm a freaking bloody projector. And so, as a projector, I must have the invitation before I do or say or help support anyone. And so, until that point, I was trying so hard. And every time I over tried and overcompensated, no one would respond. Why? Because it was pushy. It was not authentic. It felt a little icky. It felt not aligned, like something was off because I was trying so effing hard. But when I'm just fully me, doing my thing, then again, folks start naturally coming. And not necessarily everyone, nor would I want that. I'm also highly introverted and I'm an INFP, right? But because of my ways, the people that are truly aligned do show up. Now, inside of devoted spaces and anything I do, I talk a lot about human design. Well, not a lot, but I do weave in human design and I give a little intro for each of you based on your profile and your authority and your, whatchamacallit, like who you are. And so we do move that in. But again, it's like archetypal energies. It's simply a way to get curious rather than it being like end all be all, right? And so for each and every one of you, my deepest desire today is for you to play with being that 6-month future self in you and notice what happens, including on socials or when you write a newsletter, or if you audaciously choose to DM someone and invite them to something, right? Whatever it is that you do that has to do with you serving in your business, prospering by also creating abundance, because for sure, every single spiritual being and healer and coach and those that do creative work should be making a shit ton of money because you have the ability and the capacity, the know-how and the wisdom to help serve the earth, right? And so therefore really honoring that for each and every one of you. Okay. So that's one way we're going to call in the yummy clients. The other way is the actual quiz. So when you create a quiz, it's not about just the questions. The questions are actually the last thing you do. So once you start weaving in and understanding the archetypal energies, for me, I always work with my students on like 4, right? And so great. So for example, someone here says, I've already felt into 3 of my archetypes. Amazing, right? So they will start coming because it's in the prayer field right now. So they're going to start already naturally coming your way. So yes, letting the archetypal energies come first. And then it's actually about understanding the archetypes so well that you know how to create a results page, which talks about the gifts, the underlying gifts that are in the shadow. What are their challenges? What are their personalities like? All of those things are the results page that brings to life the ability for someone who's brand new, who puts in their email address to take your quiz and gets this result page to be profoundly changed. So if any of you have not taken my quiz, I say take it and notice what the result page looks like. I spent majority of my time on that page, crafting it and figuring out the deep understanding of my archetypes. And so this isn't just I do it in 10 minutes and then I get lots of people in. No, because you'll get people in who just like to take quizzes, right? Like how many millions of people have take BuzzFeed quizzes because it's just fun. You don't want people just to come who just likes the quiz. No, you want people to come who takes the quiz, lands on your results page and go, OMG, this is really good. Like, thank you. I noticed that you put a lot of effort into this and you're speaking me. Like, how do you know me? And that's the email I get all the time, right? I get folks who say, oh my goodness, this is more than I ever expected. I have had coaches say to me, you should take half of this stuff off and then ask people to pay for it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Right. And so there's details in there because it's supportive, but I also don't make it really lengthy with verbiage because that doesn't serve either. How often have you gone onto a page and there's so much words, you're like, I can't even. Right. And so there is a nice balance between feel, a playfulness, and some information to help support a person in regards to knowing their magic and medicine. That is how I've called in Dreamy clients and Dreamy folks on my email subscriber lists that are active and engaged and will open and share and do all of those things. So quizzes sometimes don't work because it's just people wanting to take quizzes. But if you put the intentionality in, you will have people enter and they will stay. That's what we desire, right? Okay, so can I share with you what your work is for today? Okay, and then I'll tell you what the prize is for engaging inside of Facebook. Okay, so here we go. Your fun work challenge, which will also be in the Facebook group, as well as an email that's coming to you shortly, is going to be number 1. List out 5 to 7 different characters that you resonate with in film, TV, or in literature. Okay, now that you felt into the archetypal energies inside of the energetic field, you're now going to notice around you pop culture, literature, fantasy fiction, whatever you want. Young adults, fantasy, so good, right? Okay, so you're going to just look around Netflix, wherever it is, and figure out 5 to 7 different characters that kind of resonate with some of your archetypes. You don't need to know different archetypes, just gather some, okay? Next, in addition, you can find 5 to 7 memes or GIFs that totally captures your essence. Okay, 5 to 7 memes or GIFs that totally capture your essence. So for example, there's a meme out there of this really cute Asian baby who literally can't keep herself up because she falls asleep. And so she gets up and then she laughs and then falls asleep again. That's totally a portion of me. I do that all the time, right? So go ahead and find some memes for yourself. Next, list out your superpowers, the strengths that encompass your awesomeness. You can list out 3. Okay? It is a blessing to serve you. My deepest desire is to bring nourishment to your soul, activate and enliven your inner landscape, and find inspiration through the sacred stories of others and myself, so we remember we are collectively woven. If you would like to learn more about mysticism, spiritual devotion, magic and intuition, sacred leadership, business practices, and devoted energy coaching, please make sure you subscribe to Devoted Way podcast. As I continue to serve, may I humbly ask for a sacred exchange. I would be so appreciative if you would write a love note, otherwise known as a review. Share the episode with your friends and community members, and engage with me on Instagram at Devoted Way. If you have any questions you desire to be answered on Devoted Way podcast, please head over to devotedway.com and send me an email. Stay sacred and discover your path and join the Devoted Way. May magic and miracles occur in your life every day as you co-create a synchronistic new world with the Great Mother. Until next time, this is Sora Schilling.